Hello, and welcome to our Wells Fargo Major Report. I will briefly introduce our team consisting of Courtney, Kanoa, Braden, Luke, Roberto, and Utah. This presentation begins with identifying main issues within job performance and human resources. Next, we will talk about how the data was collected and analyze what it truly means. After that, we will work through both problems and the solutions. Finally, we will have a brief recap. The first problem that we identified is job satisfaction. We decided this is important because as of right now, employees feel as though they can't trust Wells Fargo, and this prohibits them from continuing on within the company. The second issue that we identified is within human resources. We decided this is important because as of right now, employees within Wells Fargo feel like they lack the resources they need to solve their issues. Our data collection process went as such. We focused on strictly primary data. We crafted a short 5-question summary that highlighted topics such as politics, cohesiveness, trust, and culture. We went to Wells Fargo locations and asked employees if they would take our surveys. Some locations were a hit and some were a miss, but we got some good respondents and insight from a regional manager. Our other source of primary data was a lengthy survey with Cosmo, our contacts within the banking world who has 20 plus years experience and has dealt with Wells Fargo during the entire scandal.
Our research team was fortunate to have an abundance of data to work with and analyze. We were able to get 30 responses to our survey questions, all from former and current employees at Wells Fargo. This survey asked respondents to rate various characteristics of Wells Fargo on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. Most of our questions pertain to Wells Fargo's work environment and overall culture. As you can see from our bar graph below, politics playing an influence in promotions had an average score of 4, organizational cohesiveness had an average score of 2.4, and trust and management had an average score of 2.8, and organizational culture had an average score of 2.6. We found the two most concerning scores to be organizational cohesiveness and organizational culture. With organizational cohesiveness being this low, this means there's lots of disagreement within the organization about what objectives to set out for the firm and the strategies they take in accomplishing these objectives. We believe that also very negatively impacted the overall organizational culture, with many employees not being on the same page as their superiors and management and executives. Trusted management was also extremely low with a score of 2.8. And we believe this is due to politics being very present in the company and having promotional inequalities amongst the employees. Our research responses, and we read many things online that said being an employee at Wells Fargo and getting promotions is more about who you know versus what you know. We believe that this factor is what caused very low averages for many of the other characteristics which we asked our respondents. Cosmo Magliaz, one of our interviewee respondent, who worked out directly with Wells Fargo amidst the scandals, accredited Wells Fargo's integrity to their largest shareholders. This indicated to our research team that many of the fraudulent financing activities that took place were by the approval and maybe even the motivation of management and the largest shareholders. This tells us that the cultural issues and integrity issues come from the top down from Wells Fargo. However, when asked about how much the employees and overall community attributed to the scandal, Cosmo adamantly explained that it was not because of the community, and most of the employees were just trying to do their jobs and simply taking orders from management. Cosmo also said that scandals like this have a very negative and significant impact on the overall work environment, because customers lose confidence and employees lose trust not only with their superiors, but also with each other. Cosmo also claimed that many large banks were committing similar fraudulent financing activities during and after the recession that preceded the 2008 stock market crash. Even though he claimed many other large banks, such as Chase and Citibanks, were also committing financial fraud, when asked if he could trust Wells Fargo, he said, based on my experience with dealings with Wells Fargo in my career, I find it hard to trust this institution. Coming with somebody from over 20 years in banking who's worked for multiple large banks, we believe that statement is of great significance. Wells Fargo clearly has cultural and integrity issues that come from its largest shareholders and most powerful and trusted employees. In order for this company to truly improve and leave the scandals that they committed behind them, they will need to improve the organization and seriously put effort into improving the integrity and overall morale, starting from their most powerful executives and shareholders. Our research data from both our survey responses and our interviews suggests that Wells Fargo has three organizational challenges which they must prioritize to fix. That being low organizational cohesiveness, lack of trust in management, and promotional inequality. Wells Fargo cannot improve its image and regain its trust from both its customers and its employees unless they have trust in their executives and superiors, as well as create promotional equality for all employees, regardless of their personal relationships with management. They need to make an equal playing field for their employees to move higher up within the ranks of the company, regardless of their personal connections. Our research suggests from multiple respondents that Wells Fargo is an extremely political work environment where promotions are based more off personal relationships versus performance. Our research team was fortunate enough to accumulate these data and come to these conclusions based off responses from 30 employees and interviews with former employees. We believe these issues can be fixed by Wells Fargo if they put in the time, effort, and resources to implement changes to improve the culture and overall trust within the organization and their trust amongst customers.
The first way job satisfaction can be solved is by reconstructing the work environment. By rebuilding and inviting an encouraging workplace, Wells Fargo will be able to rebuild relationships that used to motivate the employees who built the company to what it is today. The next solution is having management simply stepping back. Wells Fargo is known for pushing employees towards impossible goals that leave the employees panicked, and they choose actions that harm the company in the long run. I would like to introduce a 3-week plan, beginning with the lower level management, being introduced to new strategies and giving them time to prepare to share with their employees. Week 2 includes the lower management meeting directly with these employees to set goals that both parties agree on and to make sure they are both manageable and achievable. Week 3 finishes off with data collection of this new change, where the upper management will decide how to adjust the strategy for the future. Of course, there are risks. As stated before, Wells Fargo has pushed unrealistic goals on employees in the past. This new style of management needs to be practiced and understood, as it's critical. Old habits do not come back. The other risk is, of course, employee participation. This new management might come across as giving employees freedoms to make goals that do not reflect the potential employees possess. Also, this may give employees the thought of increased leverage on management, which will affect relationships. Next, Yutong will cover our next problem with human resources.
The second problem is human resource. To solve this problem, the first things we do is build a new department, create a new department for employee to provide resource and get help. Then the company can focus on employee needs And the second, we do build the new habit to make sure the employee make and ask question habits and solve problem at the beginning, and to make sure the employee develop the habit of using internal resource well. Human resource plan of action. We have a 3 weeks to do that. The first week introduce the responsibility of the new department to the staff, which means we are encourage them to actively use the internal resource and service of the new department and explain how to department operates. The second way, we allow employees to build trust in the new department. Then the third way, we need to get employees used to getting resources and help in their new department. So of course, we have risk. So what are the risks we have? The first one is trust. We don't know could we build the trust with the employee. When the employee do not trust new department, they will not use the resource, and they will resulting in a waste of the resource. The second one is risk more standards, because the low ethical employee do not report the truthfully, and the low ethical managers, they prevent employee from reporting.
To recap, Wells Fargo is one of the most successful banks in the United States. But with scandals tarnishing internal relationships, there is major room for improvement. Our selected problems with job satisfaction and lack of human resources are based on the primary data that we collected, and this has expressed possible steps Wells Fargo can take. This document will serve as an outline Wells Fargo can utilize to rebuild strong relationships and steer away from past practices on the journey to creating everlasting trust and, most importantly, satisfaction within the company. Thank you.